Hey, I'm Stephanie, and today we're doing a powder cheek declutter, bronzers, blushes, highlighter, and face palettes. I've had most of these things for years, and I haven't really been buying much new makeup lately. It's just given me more headroom to enjoy what I already own. So I don't think this is going to be a dramatic purge. It's going to be more of an edit. The kind of thing that just happens after spending real time with a collection and noticing which shades and textures and formulas still feel like me and which ones don't anymore. So let's head to the overhead view and escort some of these powders off the premises. This is my bronzer collection, which grew significantly this year. I went from having these bronzers to all of a sudden doubling my collection. But to be fair, this is the one that I bought. I originally ordered shade 1 and they sent me shade 2, but in shade 1 packaging. And in the process of trying to remedy the whole thing, I ended up getting sent shade 1 in here and then shade 3 in here. It was a whole thing. I did a video about it. I'll link it here if I remember. But basically, I doubled my bronzer collection and I don't know how I feel about it. It wasn't expected. It was just supposed to be, well, this. That was originally the plan, but now it is this. And I have to say, after trying all 3 of the Gucci bronzers, I really like all 3 shades. This shade 3 is really only good for me in the summer, but during the summer, it was gorgeous. Shade 2, I feel like is going to be my all year round bronzer. And as you can see, it's already been around the block with me. It's gotten some damage. It's gotten some serious use. And shade 1 is a contour on me in the summer, but it is a bronzer on me in the winter. So I do like both of these. I think I'm going to get the most use out of these, but I'm not ready to say goodbye to this one yet because I got so much fun use out of it already this summer. So I'm going to keep it around for at least one more summer because I really do like it. The question is, do I really want to keep all of these? Now, all of these here are matte bronzers. And this is the one and only glowy bronzer that I have. So I feel like that alone gives this one a spot in the collection. This is Tom Ford. What do they officially call it? The Glow Bronzer in shade 2, Terra. And that's what this one looks like. Let me give you a nice juicy swatch of it. And that one is gorgeous. Let's compare it actually to Gucci shade 1 because I feel like they're both kind of cool toned, but the Gucci is even cooler and pinker. On me, it looks almost pink. And since we're swatching Gucci, let's swatch shade 2. And shade 3. And then let's swatch Hoola here, because that's just a classic. How can you not swatch Hoola? And then, of course, we have the classic Marc Jacobs Tan-Tastic bronzer, which has gotten, at this point, almost 1,000 uses, and it still hasn't hit pan. It's the bronzer that will never die, but it still is working beautifully, so I'm not going to get rid of it because it's just a gorgeous bronzer. Let's really get a nice swatch of that. But let's look at the undertones here. I feel like I've got 3 kind of cool toned bronzers here. The Tom Ford Terra is relatively cool. Then we have the pinkier Gucci 1, and we have a red almost in the Gucci shade 2. And then we all of a sudden jump to 3, which is more of a golden undertone. And then I feel like the Hoola bronzer is a really balanced gold. Like this one is a clear golden undertone that's almost looking like clearly brown. And this one has a little mixture of gold, has a little mixture of red. And that's actually why I can't get rid of this. The formula of Hoola, I feel like isn't as elegant as any of the other formulas here, but the reason I keep it is because sometimes I'm looking for the perfect color, and this still really is just a perfect color, which just goes to show that sometimes, even though a formula isn't as elegant, if the color is perfect, it just works. And then the Marc Jacobs Tan-Tastic bronzer is such a lovely formula. I feel like this looks amazingly natural on my skin. And here's the thing, the Gucci, I feel like it shows up on me, and I like it because it's blurring. I really enjoy the blurring finish of these and the fact that they do show up as a bronzer on me. The Marc Jacobs Tan-Tastic, it's almost like it gives me a bronze that you can't detect. It's a very subtle shift, probably because I don't use all that much of it. Maybe because I use such a light hand, that's why I still haven't hit pan. But this is a remarkably soft, lightweight bronzer, and it doesn't necessarily have a super blurring finish, but I feel like it's just invisible in the best way possible. It's almost like a veil instead of a thicker layer. Not that these are thick. None of these are thick. Although I think out of all the formulas I have, this is probably the thickest one. And I think you can even see that from the swatch texture. When I swatch this one, there's almost like a little bit of texture there. And I do find that I have to use a light hand with this, not because of the color, but because of the formula. If I use too heavy of a layer, it can look a little bit makeup-y on me, whereas that doesn't happen with the other ones. This one can look a little bit powdery, and I feel like it can, if I use too heavy of a hand with it, emphasize texture. But all in all, if I use it normally, then it's fine. So I can't see a reason to declutter any of these today. I'm still actively enjoying all of them. I can still very clearly remember why I like each one. And I think that justifies a spot for each of them, for now. This is my single blush collection, which I don't think really grew much this year because I didn't buy any, but I do know that there are some that I think I can get rid of. So let's go through that together. This one I'm not going to get rid of. It is a random pan of single blush. I don't even know where it's from, but I just put it in this empty blush compact from Becca, which I put a magnetic sheet in the bottom, and that way pans can just easily stick in there. So I can use that to travel with, and that's what this one looks like. That is a nude blush. And I love a nude blush, so that's going to stick around. And then this one, also a nude blush, was from my mother, and it's Cedar Rose from Lancome. And this one is like a rosier nude, and so these two are definitely staying because I think they're pretty much my most used, along with this one from Pat McGrath, which was decluttered to me. And that's going to go here. This is, though, like a deeper nude. It's like bordering on not nude anymore. In the summer, I feel like this is nude on me. In the winter, not so much. But these three are definitely keepers. But let's move on to some of the more vivid colors, shall we? What do I want to do with this Patrick Ta? I actually really like the formula of this, but I feel like this turns a little bit orange on me. And I used to be a huge fan of this. I am actually in the summer still because it's kind of like a bronzy sort of color, but even though I think the formula is really nice and I do think that the color's nice, I think it's a little bit too orangey on me because I haven't been reaching for it much, which is a shame because it's a beautiful blush, so I feel like it would get more use somewhere else. So I should probably declutter this so that it will get used before it goes off. Let me see, this one, you'd think it would be out because it is so vivid. But this is one of those blushes, it's like nice to have a really vivid red, because if I go in with this in the summer with a light hand, even though it looks shocking in the pan, I feel like, and it looks shocking in a swatch like this, right? But when I wear it, it looks more like this because I kind of fade it out. And that is like such a beautiful, natural, sunburned, flushed pink, especially in the summer. I'm never, ever going to use this up. This is Exhibit A from NARS, and it's the original formula. They've since reformulated it, but this is one of those blushes I feel like I'm just going to keep around forever because I use so little of it when I use it. I'm never going to use it up. but it is nice to have because I do use it. It's just that I use such a light hand that it's going to stick around forever. But this is also a keeper. And by the way, the Patrick Ta blush was in the shade She's So LA, just because I don't think I mentioned that. What else do we have here? Okay. This one here. This one is also kind of peachy. This is Cover FX Soft Peach, so no wonder it's peachy. I'm just going to wipe my hand off so I can give you a nice, clean, accurate swatch. This formula is actually really beautiful. People don't talk much about it anymore, but it was like all the rage a few years ago. And that happens a lot with makeup. Like it's all the rage because it really is good. But then new stuff comes along and people stop talking about it and all of a sudden there's something new to buy. But this formula is still just as good, still just as nice. And you get the matte, you get a highlighting version. You can kind of mix them together to make it as matte or as shiny as you want. And I feel like it's a really nice blush. But I've been noticing that when I wear this, it like pulls this weird, like almost like sickly orange on me. And the undertone just doesn't suit me. And I tried it several times. I tried to make it look with several different looks. I just don't think it's for me. So I think I'm going to pass this on as well. While we're with Cover FX, let's look at this one. This is Pink Dahlia. And this one is one that I wear much more often when I want just like a straight up spring fresh pink. I feel like it's a warm pink, which is easy for me to wear. But it's also just a nice formula, making it really easy to wear. I don't go into the highlighty side as often just because I'm not necessarily into a lot of highlighter on my cheeks lately. I don't know exactly what that is, if it's a mood or what, but I do think that these colors suit me a little bit better. They're just a little bit easier for me to wear. And it's not a cool pink, which is also nice. I feel like that makes it easier for me to wear too. So I think I'm going to keep this one around as a pop of color, because I do find like in the spring, I'm always really inspired to wear that shade. This one, on the other hand, the reason I keep this ZC blush around is number one, the compact is just really funny. It's got a little dangly. But the other reason is because the blush really is good. It has a lot of staying power, which is something that I really appreciate, especially on stage. Like this blush does not fade. I know a lot of people struggle with blushes that fade. This one does not, which is great. It stays put. But when I look at the colors in here, it's like very orangey coral, and like I can deal with a nice coral color on my cheek, but I feel like this one is just very orange. Do I want to keep that? I don't know. Let's swatch some of the other colors I have here. I also have Clinique Ginger Pop here. How does this compare? Yeah, see, this one is also kind of it's like a pink that's bordering on coral, and this is like an orange that's bordering on coral. And I feel like this one is easier to wear, but this one is also pretty similar to Pink Dahlia, especially when it's kind of like faded out. Like if I just kind of do that. Although, I mean, it is a little bit warmer, a little bit deeper, but do I really need both? Here's the thing, I reach for this one in the spring and I reach for this one in the summer, which seems really strange to me now that I see how similar they are. But this one is just a little bit more intense. I don't know if that's going to show up on camera, but I feel like the Ginger Pop is just that teensy tiny bit deeper. And so that's why I wear that. So I think it's actually worth watching my behavior with these two blushes in the coming year to see how I use them, if it's really worth keeping both of them, or if they're actually interchangeable. Maybe I should do a panning for gold between these two, actually, because I really do. The finish of these cheek pop blushes from Clinique is really good. And there's a reason that these are a classic. So I don't know, these are both extremely good formulas. They're both kind of similar in color. So I think it's worth comparing these. So one of these might be on the chopping block eventually, but not today. And then we have this one from Milani. This is the classic Luminoso. And this, I feel like is almost a highlight on me, but it's this unbelievably soft glow. It's much softer than this one. And in fact, I often combine the matte blush in the Cover FX palette with this one because I feel like I like the glowiness of this one better than the glow here. So I think this one might be worth keeping, although look at all of this pink. Those are all very similar. Do I really want to keep those? We'll come back to that. Let's think of this ZC for a minute. I think this is leaning a little bit too orange for me. But when I look at what I already have, see, I've got kind of an earthy nude, then I've got a pinky nude, then I have a more intense, deeper nude that's burgeoning on color, and then I've got an intense red. And then here, I'm getting rid of the kind of brownie blush here because it pulls too orange. I'm definitely getting rid of this one because this one makes me look a little bit sickly. And then we've got these. This one performs so well. That's my issue. I don't want to force a declutter today, but I also kind of am in the mood to make sure that I really only keep what I'm going to genuinely use. And I feel like these colors are all somewhat related. I feel like the one that sticks out is the ZC, which I feel like maybe that should actually be why I keep it. Maybe it's worth really focusing on how I use these in the coming year, because these are all very clear to me. When I use these are like core blushes for me. So these are definitely 100% worth keeping. These, I feel like color-wise, some of them are worth keeping. I just don't know if I need all of them. And this is the one that I really need to take a look at because color-wise, I almost feel like it's a bit too something. I can't decide if it's too orange, if it's too red. I'm not exactly sure. But because I'm not sure, maybe it really is worth taking a look at. How similar are... Okay, when I look at the NARS Exhibit A and I look at the ZC, I feel like they actually serve the same function. Because look at the swatches together. The ZC is just like a little bit less saturated and a little bit less red. But if I'm going for that red sunburned look, then I might as well go for the red sunburned look and not like a more muted watercolor version of it, especially since I have cream cheeks that do this same thing. I think that's what I'm going to say about this. I think the ZC is going to also leave, which is kind of tragic. Maybe I should keep the compact. Maybe I should depot the blush and give the blush away and keep the compact, because I have to say, like, the compact is kind of funny. It makes me laugh. Okay, so now we're down to these, and which fits best? I definitely think it's worth keeping at least one of them. The advantage to just keeping Ginger Pop, if I were to only keep this one, is look how small it is. Like, that's a nice little, if this was my blush collection, isn't that little and cute? Like, I kind of like that. But it is a little bit deeper than this. I'm going to try swatching those together. Let's see, if I were to just keep this, let's swatch that on the arm of keepers here. Okay, yeah, that is pretty intense. And then let's do a really intense swatch of this one. Okay, yeah, when these are next to each other, I feel like they are kind of different, aren't they? Yeah, this one's more muted, which tends to be more my jive. But I do notice that every once in a while, there will be a case in the summer where I've done my makeup and there's just something missing. And I can't figure out exactly what it is, but every single time if I just add a little bit of this blush, and I mean the tiniest bit, it completely fixes the problem. It just makes me look more alive. So I feel like maybe this is that, it's just that blush that you can't explain why it works, it just does. And I feel like that's worth keeping. And this one is my springtime blush, so that's worth keeping, which means the only one now that's up for debate is Milani's Luminoso. The shine of this one, there's just something so soft about it. Yeah, I think this is okay. I mean, I didn't come here expecting to completely destroy my collection and only have one or two things left. I think this is what we'll stick with. So these are the blushes that I'm keeping. And these blushes here are the ones that are leaving. Okay, so these are the blushes I definitely want to keep. These are the ones that I am giving away. This one for sure, because it makes me look sickly. The question is, do I want to test these out one more time? The ZC, I don't want to, because even though it works beautifully, the formula is great, the color just isn't dialed in enough for me. And so I realize that I tend to reach for other things more, so it just makes sense to give the ZC away. So the Patrick Ta is the one that I'm the most concerned about missing. When I look at the blushes that I'm keeping, and then I look at the Patrick Ta swatches, which are right here, I feel like, are they different enough? Although, look at this. This is like a more saturated version of this, and I'm always going to choose this over that. I think that's pretty clear. Okay, so you know what? The Patrick Ta, this one is going to be given away, as is this one from ZC, and this one from Cover FX, the Peach, Soft Peach. And this is now going to be my blush collection. This is my highlighter collection. We have Becca Moonstone, we have Laura Geller French Vanilla, we have Laura Mercier Highlight Shade 1 in the Matte Radiance Baked Powder formula, and we have Bobbi Brown Highlighting Powder in Pink Glow. And here are my thoughts. I don't use powder highlight that often, but when I want like a matte glow, which sounds totally like a contradiction, and I understand that, but when I want that, like it's almost like a powdery, soft glow, I feel like this works. And I feel like also like a powdery, soft, velvety look looks good on me. Like I feel like that suits my features. I feel like there's a certain softness to texture that just suits me a little bit more than some of the harsher textures out there. And because of that, I feel like this is just really useful. I even have like a little tiny dent in the dome. It's probably too small for you to see, but it's there. And this highlight is just beautiful. It's creamy, it's gentle. I feel like that is just, when I'm looking for this, I want exactly this. So I'm definitely not going to get rid of that. This Becca Moonstone is a little bit more intense, but it's still got a softness to it. It's not metallic at all. You don't see any particles to it. There's a glimmer there that's visible, but it doesn't add any texture. So I still feel like this is worth using. Although I noticed that I use this more for like inner corner highlights, or if I'm going for a more extreme look. It's funny, this is my extreme highlighter. If I want something ethereal with a little bit of sparkle, but that's still extremely gentle, that doesn't add a whole lot of texture because it's not glitter, then I go for the Laura Mercier highlighter, and she looks like this. And I feel like these two are very similar. I feel like this is the more sparkly version of this. But as you can see, both these two highlighters are much more gentle in texture than this one. And so I feel like these two, the texture suits me the best. And this one here from Becca gives me the most brightening when I'm looking for that. I think that's how I would describe it. And then we have the outlier, this Bobbi Brown in Pink Glow. It's an outlier in a couple of respects. One is that this formula is very sparkly, and the second is in the color. This is the one and only pink highlight I have. And I'm not sure if this is worth keeping, because look how much more extreme that texture is. There's a lot of shine there, which isn't a bad thing. Shine is good. That's what you want a highlighter to do. But there's something about it on the cheeks. It almost starts to look a little bit piecey to me. And I know that some people really like a piecey sparkle, but I just feel like the Becca has a certain intensity to it, but it's smoother. And I feel like that smoothness just suits me more than this, which can get piecier. So this, I don't think really is a highlight that's for me. I think it's great quality. I see nothing wrong with it, but I noticed that I reach for this as an eyeshadow. And this is a mini highlighter. So you know what? I think I'm going to put this with my single eyeshadows because I think I'm going to get a lot more use out of it like that. Because on the eyes, I feel like a little bit of detail and sparkle draws attention there. And especially because, you know, I've got the hooded eyes, it's nice that when I blink or when I'm looking down, you can see a little bit of interest, because this still isn't an extreme texture, I think, for the eyes anyway. I just feel like when it's on a larger plane of my face, like the cheeks, then it becomes a little bit too intense. But when it's on a smaller spot, like my eyes, I feel like it has just enough sparkle to it to make the look interesting. So I think this is actually an eyeshadow for me. This is going to move into my single eyeshadows. So I'm not decluttering anything, but these are my only remaining highlighters. And I'm pretty happy about that. I feel like this one is like a creamy golden beige. This one really brings light to my face. And this one it's almost like a pinky beige when I look at it in the swatches on my arms, because that's these three here. So I think all three of these are definitely worth keeping. Here are all of my face palettes. I haven't been buying any, but I still have a lot, and I was given one as a gift. So let's take a look at these. And first off, right off the bat, I have 2 Hourglass palettes, and I don't need 2 Hourglass palettes. The reality is that when I reach for my Hourglass, I almost always reach for this one because I feel like this one is a little bit too peachy and warm for me, because even though I'm neutral with golden undertones, I feel like I'm only slightly golden. And I feel like this is just a little bit too warm and intense for me. We've got this shade here. Like if we look at these shades in the palette, which you might think are, well, that's only 3. And let's take a look at this highlighter as well. Hourglass is famous for making really soft powders. And that's very true, but some of their highlighters can be a little bit more intense. As you can see, this one's a little bit piecey from the swatch. And this blush is also a little bit shiny and textured, as you can perhaps see from the swatch. That there's just like a little bit more to it than some of the Hourglass powders. I still think the quality of all of these is great. It is a great palette quality-wise, but when I think of myself, and I've been trying to figure out what I'm most comfortable wearing, I like colors that kind of blend softly into my skin, just because that's what I personally enjoy. And I feel like this palette here on this side does that just so much easier, no matter the time of year. And what I used to do is wear this one more in the winter and this one more in the summer, because I feel like I can take a little bit more intensity in the summer. But the reality is that this palette here is just a little bit easier for me to wear because the colors just blend more into my skin. And even this highlighter here is just generally softer, which I find just suits my taste better. And so I don't need a summer palette and a winter palette, especially because I find I wear this one year round. When I travel, this is the one that I always choose to take. So I'm going to give this away and let someone else enjoy this because it's gorgeous. It's perfect. It's just not perfect for me. That was easy. If you can hear the people upstairs, I'm really sorry. They're obsessed with vacuuming. And you know what? I'm not going to complain about having cleanly neighbors because I think it's great. But they really do vacuum like a lot, several times a day, a lot. And it's loud. Okay, so what else do I want to do? This one I also know I'm not getting rid of. This was a beautiful, thoughtful gift. I just got it very dirty with my swatchy hands. And let's see, we'll get rid of some of those swatches there. This is a beautiful palette that I got as a gift, and I really do enjoy it. So I'm going to keep this one. And this one is also very soft. This is the Chanel, what is it called? Les Quatre Rouges Yeux et Joues. So it's the face and eye palette in Tendresse. That's what I was looking for. I'm sorry I made you listen to my horrible French pronunciation. If you are French, I apologize. But see, that's a red, but look how soft that is. It just kind of blends out into the skin. I think it's like just really easy to wear. This is just like a very highlighty shade that I don't know. This one. Oh, yeah. This bronzer shade. It's just so soft and pretty. And then this blush too. This is like perfect for summer because I feel like it really does kind of blend, especially this blush here, almost kind of blends into a tan beautifully. This one almost is like highlights, like these two together. This is almost like a highlighter. This bronze is gorgeous all year round. And this one is so gentle, this last blush here. I just feel like this suits me. It was a lovely gift. I treasure it, so I'm definitely keeping that. Then we have my Charlotte Tilbury face palettes. Should we look at those first or should we look at everything else first? Probably everything else first because then we'll have more room to look at Charlotte. So this Anastasia highlighter palette, this is the sort of highlighter, it's like the only powder highlighter that I have that does that kind of glass skin effect. Just, I don't know, it's weird. It's smooth, but it's metallic, but smooth. I don't understand exactly how it works, but these are kind of magical shades. And this is actually a combination. This is partly the Sun Dipped palette and partly, I don't know, was it the Sugar palette or something that it was called? And this is a combination out of those two palettes. But this is an absolutely gorgeous formula. I'm wondering though if I could find compacts to put these in because I think I'd probably get more use out of them if I used them as singles. So maybe I should do that, or maybe I should just move it to my drawer with the rest of my highlighters. Because I find that when I have a palette of just like one type of thing, like all blushes or all highlighters, I don't use them as much as I want to. And if I have a palette that's like this, where it's got highlighters and blushes and bronzers, I use that because it's got variety in it. But I don't tend to use palettes with just one single type of product in them. So I need to rethink this and maybe store it differently, but the product inside is gorgeous enough to keep. And these pans are very easily removable. So I have a feeling this is going to stick around and I might just put it in a different format. This Lancome palette is gorgeous, but I think it needs to live in my eyeshadow drawer and not with my face palettes because the only shade in here that I use on my face is this one here. It's this beautiful, soft highlight. It's just so pretty. And it's just this beautiful, I don't know, creamy, pinky beige color. It's just so easy to wear, but it's also easy to wear as an eyeshadow, and I use every other shade in here as an eyeshadow. This one I only ever use as a liner or on the inner corner, but oh my gosh, it's so pretty. It's not a color that I typically wear because it's jewel toned, and I don't do a lot of jewel tones, but as just a liner or as the outer corner, it's just so pretty. This one is a really sparkly shade that just is a beautiful kind of piecey look on the eye. It's too piecey to wear on my cheek, which is why I would never wear this as like a blush lighter or anything, but it's gorgeous in and of itself. This shade is also always piecier than I think it's going to be, but that's gorgeous on the eye. And it's a gold color that's not too intense. It's not quite muted, but it's not quite intense. So I really like that. It's kind of a middle of the road thing. And then this pink, it's so pretty. This is such a pretty little palette. So definitely worth keeping. But I am moving this to my eyeshadow drawer. This palette is so old, but when I go on tour sometimes, it's really useful. First of all, these pans are all removable, so a lot of times I'll just take one pan with me when I go. Most of the time it's this one, and sometimes it's these two, although I have been known to take this one too, and this one too. So I don't know. I get use out of these, but I go through powders so slowly, but these are still really great powders. And this one actually reminds me a little bit of my Kevyn Aucoin powder. And I feel like when that one runs out, then I'm going to be using this one in its place. So I really do like these powders. I'm going to keep them around. I realize that a lot of people would probably have given them away by now, but you know what? They still work and I'm still enjoying them. So I'm going to keep it. This NARS Orgasm on the Beach palette is so fun in the summer because look at these pops of color. I find that they're too much for me in the winter, but in the summer, holy cow, do I enjoy these. Look at that. Like that's not intensity that I typically wear, but it's like all of a sudden that color got a little muddied by the previous swatch. Let me try swatching on my other arm. Let's see, we'll start over. Yeah. There we go. That's more of what the color is supposed to look like. But I just feel like these colors, they just come to life on my summer skin. That's just so pretty. And these highlighters, they are also so pretty. Let's see if I have some space here. This one, though, is pretty dark for me. I can really only wear this one in the summer. Same here. That's almost like a blush lighter. So this palette is 100% a summertime palette for me. That's the only time I ever really reach for it. But I think it's worth keeping for two reasons. Number one, I do really enjoy it in the summer. But number two, every single year, NARS comes out with these palettes. And every single year, I'm tempted by them. And every single year, I say, oh, it looks really nice, but you know, I already have one. And that's how I talk myself out of it. So even if the only reason I was keeping this was to not purchase any more, I feel like that in and of itself is a money-saving measure. So there's definitely more than enough reasons to keep this. This Bobbi Brown palette is so convenient for travel. Cream products here, cream product here, powder product there. And if I can't take much with me, this is my complexion palette. And then one of these palettes will be the rest of my makeup. And it's like I have everything in this little tiny package, which is so convenient for me, especially when I don't have a lot of space. If I'm just traveling with a carry-on and I don't want to take any liquids, this is just the ideal solution. So this is definitely sticking around. These Charlotte Tilbury palettes also get so much use when I travel, and I've started using them more at home too, because why should I just save them for travel? They are absolutely gorgeous palettes. This one is a little bit different than these because it's just a face palette with a highlighter, a blush, a contour, and a bronzer. And the formula of this is so nice. I'm gonna go wash these old swatches off my arm and then I'll be back because these deserve swatching.
12 seconds later.
All right, I am back with fresh arms and fingers just waiting to get into this beautiful palette. So this is the Nudegasm palette. And in the summer, this is so much fun because look at that blush. But the rest of the palette, I can definitely easily wear all year round. And to be honest, I can wear this in the winter too. I just have to use a lighter hand. But this is just such a gorgeous palette. I feel like the finishes of these, this is like a, I don't know, like a baked formula. It's very hard. There's something really special about it. It becomes very skin-like. It doesn't look powdery at all. Like these two powders here, or creams, or I don't know what it is, baked gelée maybe. That is just such a beautiful formula. And these two, they're more sparkly, but it feels smooth. Like you don't feel any texture, but you do see some sparkle. And although I typically go for much smoother highlighters, there's something about this formula that makes it really easy to wear. And I can't exactly explain it. I'm gonna swatch it one more time. It's so pretty. It kind of melts into the skin and it sparkles, and yet it's not too much. And I don't understand how exactly they did that for this palette, but this is a gorgeous palette. This blush isn't the perfect tone for me, but these three, these are gorgeous and I can make it work with this. And so I often travel with this in the summer. And I forgot this one because it was in my makeup bag, but these are all of my Charlotte Tilbury Instant Look in a palettes. And these are just amazing. She stopped making these for a while. And then she brought them back this year, and apparently this year the formula is very different. So I didn't end up picking that one up. But also, why do I need a new one when I have these? I mean, I have pretty much every color I would need, right? This one is a super natural one. That's great. And this one is also very natural. So I feel like I have two natural palettes with just some different tones in them. So that's perfect right there. And then this is my smoky palette, which if I need to go do some more smoky looks, this is the one I tend to take. And I took this on my North Sea tour, I remember, because the only makeup that I had was one lipstick, one mascara, this palette, and this palette. because I only had one tiny backpack that I could pack my stuff in. And so I remember taking this with me, and there's a lot of memories associated with this. The one thing that I don't like about this palette is how golden the highlighter is, because it is really yellow. Luckily, the formula is so nice that you don't really see the yellow too much. You just kind of see the shine. But I really do like the rest of the palette a lot better than I like that one shade. But the formula is good. These two probably get my most use, as you can see, and then, which is funny because these are the most natural palettes. But the thing is, I usually take these when I'm on tour and I need a more dramatic look, which is why these two I think get the most use. And these two have been my everyday palettes. And because I don't use them much at home, these haven't gotten that much love. So I need to start using these more in the everyday. All of these are worth keeping because I use all of them for very specific purposes and all the time. And every time I use them, I'm so glad I have them. So definitely worth keeping. So I did not declutter much today, just this one Hourglass palette, but I feel good about that because everything in here has its place and I know my thoughts about it. I know my mind about all these products. And I think that's what's really important. If I just had these things and was storing them and wasn't getting any joy or use out of them, that would be one thing. But if I know and use them and appreciate them, I feel like it's worth keeping them. Even though this wasn't a dramatic declutter, it really captures the shift that's been happening for me as I've started consuming less. I still love variety, but now I'm using that variety to understand my taste instead of distracting myself with the next new thing. Having more time with my collection instead of always hunting for new releases has made the whole discovery process a lot clearer. I'm figuring out what I like best by enjoying what I already have instead of adding to the pile. I'm especially happy that everything left has a purpose and there's less overlap between products now. A gentle edit like this takes the edge off decision fatigue and makes my routine feel so much more calm on busy days. Small shifts like this can add up over time, and so I think the choices I made today genuinely have the potential to help me enjoy my makeup even more. This was a long one, so if you are still here, leave me a flower emoji in the comments to let me know that I wasn't just talking into the void all this time. And if you feel like writing a little bit more, I would love to know which product you think was the best call or the worst one and why. If you enjoy a considered approach to beauty content, please like, comment, subscribe, and you might like this video here. Thanks so much for hanging out, and to my patrons and channel members, including my Adagio angels, for making content like this possible. I hope we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.